basketball world. This is the Around the Association podcast, and this is the Thursday edition. We're looking at today's date being at November 21st, 2019. I'm your host, Danny Thompson, checking with you this morning here on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podomatic, and every other place that you can find podcasts. The show is going to be on here. Follow me also on Twitter at Danny, DANNY, number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as follow Around the Association website and aroundtheassociation.com for the latest on everything newsworthy in the NBA. So, last night in the NBA was a night, 11 games on schedule last night. You know what, 11 games is always a lot to talk about, and there was so many stories last night. Most nights you don't get this many wonderful instances and moments from the time the first game tipped off in Philadelphia to the time the buzzer sounded in Los Angeles. There is so much to go on. So we'll try to get everything condensed for you in a couple of minutes. Let's start out in LA because that was the game of the night out in La La Land at Staples Center between the Clippers and Celtics last night. A battle of two teams that are two of the best teams in the NBA in a potential NBA Finals preview. And yes, I said NBA Finals preview that lived up to the hype. The Clippers finally last night had a chance to see Clippers and their fans and the NBA had a chance to finally see what they have put together this summer. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, they all were in action last night. Pat Beverly returned, and the return of Beverly sparked the Clippers 107-104 victory in overtime over the Boston Celtics last night at Staples Center in a game that was superly entertaining. It was sloppy at times. The Clippers had 23 turnovers last night, but the game had so many dramatics in the game last night. Everything down to from Kawhi Leonard's block on Kemba Walker at the end of regulation to Patrick Beverly knocking down a huge three-pointer late in overtime to give the Clippers their first win with their group together. Beverly, in his first game, I think Beverly had missed the last few due to injury. Beverly last night, not to mention, of course, he's a defensive monster, a defensive terror. He finished last night 14 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He was just all over the floor. He also kept Kemba Walker from having a big night. He held Walker to 13 points on 4-17 shooting. But Beverly knocked down 4 3-pointers, including 1 big one in overtime, to give the Clippers the victory. Lead the Clippers to the victory last night. Paul George led the Clippers in scoring with 25 points and 8 rebounds. Also, Lou Williams had 27 points in his usual outburst off the bench. Kawhi Leonard 17 points, 6 rebounds. Like I said, he had 3 steals, 2 blocks, including the 1 huge one on Walker at the end of regulation. Celtics were led by Jason Tatum, who had 30 points and 6 rebounds. Like I said, Kemba Walker was held to 13 is for the Celtics. Brad Wanamaker had 14 off the bench for the Celtics. But really, this game was all defense. This is what the Clippers brought these guys in for. That's why they bought Kawhi Leonard. They bought Paul George. They bought Mo Harkless, who started last night. This was all about defense. And Doc Rivers, he said in postgame, this was really about the defensive effort and everybody bringing it. The Celtics were held last night to 39.4% shooting, including 26% from the 3-point line. This is what the Clippers have been asking for from the fans. The Celtics had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, as much as a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they erased it. Like I said, it was all about the defense and the Clippers executing down the stretch. The big story of this game was the Celtics got the lead down in overtime, and Paul George missed a 3-pointer. Beverly then got that rebound. They swung it around. Beverly then George found Beverly for his 3-pointer of his own. That's what gave the Clippers the momentum. Brad Stevens got a technical foul. At that point, that was a 7-0 run for the Clippers that put the game 104-99 and put this game away. But this wasn't a wild affair out in LA, but this was what the NBA is expecting. Also, the other game of the night between two teams that have 10 wins of the season, now officially 10 wins of the season, the Denver Nuggets stopped James Harden last night. Nikola Jokic's 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists led the Denver Nuggets to a 105-95 victory over the Houston Rockets out in Denver last night. This was the first time the Rockets have been held under 100 points all season. The Nuggets are 7-0 when teams score under 100 points against them this season. And the thing was, the Nuggets did it with defense, and they held James Harden. The first time in 8 games, Harden had not scored 36 or more points. Harden finished with 27. Harden finished with 27 points tonight. But here's the thing with James Harden: Harden shot 8 of 16, but they threw different looks at him all night long. This might have been Harden's most efficient game shooting the basketball. I mean, he was 8 of 16 from the floor. He hit 50% of his 3-pointers at 4 of 8. He had 27, 7 and 7. But the thing was, it was a full-fledged defensive effort on the rest of the part by the Nuggets. At one point, they even threw Nikola Jokic out there guarding James Harden. This is what they talked about in the pregame. The Rockets held a 31% shooting from beyond the 3-point line. Big shout out to the Nuggets on that one. And then you had, earlier in the night, you had two big, humongous things that stormed social media. First and foremost, out in Philadelphia, the Sixers took care of business 109-104 over the New York Knicks. This wasn't really about, the Sixers won this game. Yes, we didn't have Josh Richardson, but this is all about Ben Simmons last night. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 18 points, 13 assists, 7 rebounds. But the big story was Ben Simmons hit his first 3-pointer. Now, mind you, he hit one in preseason. That's not it. Simmons hit his first 3-pointer of his NBA career, because this was what Sixer fans have been waiting, as well as the NBA had been waiting for years. And even if you watch the broadcast, you have a chance to catch Sixers TV announcer Mark Zuoff. He even said, "Hold me back, fam." This was an amazing moment. Simmons hit a 3. Twitter almost melted down. This was what it was. It was, Simmons had never hit a 3-pointer in his career. This was the big one. Down the stretch, the Sixers and the Knicks were in a tight game. Mike Scott hit his fourth 3-pointer of the game. It gave them a 4-point lead. And at that point, they held on, even though Marcus Morris knocked out a couple of 3-pointers in the game. Knicks, like I said, just couldn't get enough of those late in the game. Marcus Morris had 22 points and 13 rebounds before he fouled out. And also 6 assists. So Morris played 40 minutes. Did not foul it. They reversed that call in the game and gave it to somebody else. Morris had 22 and 16 lead the Knicks. Joel Embiid had 23 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists to lead the Sixers in scoring last night, who also had 6 guys in double figures, and Trey Burke also had 9 points in the Sixers victory. And the other part of the Twitter meltdown last night was Luka Doncic's first quarter performance against the Dallas Mavericks. Doncic came out and basically just put on a one-man show in the first quarter, and technically the first half, against the Golden State Warriors last night. Doncic finished with 33 of his 35 points in the first half. Finished the game with another triple-double. It was just legendary. Doncic finished with played 25 minutes last night, 35 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. His 7th triple-double of the season. And really, this was just all Luka everywhere. The Mavericks hit a franchise record 22 3-pointers. It was a blowout from the minute this game started. A full-fledged domination. Like I said, it was really mostly Luka doing everything that you would expect him to do against a team that only had 8 players available to be dressed last night. Doncic was shooting everyone on the floor. He was efficient, 11 of 18 from the floor. He knocked down 6 3-pointers. Like I said, the Mavericks as a team set a franchise record by knocking down 22 of them last night. Everybody, I think, who took a 3 made one, with the exception of DeLon Wright. He went 0 for 1 until Dorian Finney-Smith. Funny thing about Smith was he had a career high 3 3-pointers the other night. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 20 points in the starting role last night. Kristaps Porzingis 14 and 10. And for the Warriors last night, they were led by Eric Paschall, 22 points and 7 rebounds. Once again, the Warriors only had 8 players healthy enough to dress, because Draymond Green was the 9th one, but he was pulled at the last minute due to an injury. So let's go around the rest of the league last night. Out in Washington, another entertaining affair with the Washington Wizards and San Antonio Spurs. Wizards hold on 138-132 over the Spurs, over the struggling San Antonio Spurs last night. Spurs have lost 7 games in a row. This is the longest losing streak in San Antonio in 20 years since in Greg Popovich's tenure, the longest one since he took over the team more than 20 years ago. This team wasn't very good defensively last night. Bradley Beal led Wizards with 33 points last night in the game. He had 21 in the third quarter, and it was on a perfect 9 for 9 shooting. He almost outscored the Spurs by himself. Wizards had a chance to hold on in a game where normally when you score 132 points, you win. It was just a terrible defensive effort last night for the Spurs last night. Wizards were able to get all the points they could. They had multiple guys with 20 points. Davis Bertans had 21 points and 5 rebounds against the scoreboard team. Ish Smith had 21 points also for the Wizards. Spurs were led by DeMar DeRozan's 31 points. Spurs had 8 guys in double figures last night, and anybody who hit a shot last night, ended up in double figures. Spurs are now 5-10 on the season. Atlanta and Milwaukee played an entertaining game down at Phillips Arena. Giannis had 33 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and the Bucs won 35-127 victory. Bucs continue to keep going. Eric Bledsoe also had a huge game. And the most important thing is the Bucs held on to a lead. The Bucs had a huge lead in going into the fourth quarter. Hawks started to chip into it, but the Hawks finished. The Bucs did enough down the stretch to win the game. Hawks were led by DeAndre Hunter, who had a career high 27 points. Good news for the Bucs is their offense kept them with enough points. One of the NBA's best offenses in the NBA kept to doing enough to keep the Hawks from coming back. The Hawks had struggled on the road trip, played really well at home, but really this wasn't the game they expected. The Bucs led by as many as 18 points this game. The Hawks had got that lead down to 7, forcing Mike Budenholzer in the fourth quarter to bring his starters back in the game. Giannis and Bledsoe came back in. Sterling Brown hit a huge three-pointer to give the Bucs a big advantage. Like I said, the Hawks were coming off a terrible road trip, getting blown out by the Clippers and being pretty badly by the Lakers on their last couple of games of the trip. Bucs are now 8-2 on the road. Also this season, Bucs continue to go 11-3. They'll be playing the Rockets on Thursday nights. Out in Brooklyn took care of business 101-91 over Charlotte. Jared Allen, 22 points, 17 rebounds, 2 steals in the game for Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets played this game, of course, without Kyrie Irving, who was still out due to injury, and really for the third straight game. But they used other guys to pick up the slack. I said Allen had a big game. They also got another good one for Spencer Dinwiddie in that place of Irving last night. Dinwiddie finished with 20 points. Taurean Prince had 20 points and 8 rebounds in his game as well, his effort as well too. Charlotte led by Terry Rozier's 18 points and 6 rebounds. Devontae Graham had 17 points and 6 assists. But really, this was a game that the Nets used different lineups. They decided to use Jared Allen at the center position. Allen was just doing what he does best, which was high energy, getting rebounds. But Charlotte cut this lead down. Nets took over at the end of the game. Charlotte got the lead down to as many as 3 points midway through the fourth quarter. But there was just too much Nets late in the game to hold on to the victory. The Nets needed this one as they had a tough road trip, especially losing Kyrie Irving, and they were reeling. Heat won 24-100 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. The story is really simple. Duncan Robinson was the main guy. It was a record-setting night, and Duncan Robinson, the Michigan sharpshooter, was just sharpshooting against his former coach. He had 7 3-pointers in the second quarter, 8 in the first half, had a career high 29 points. And of all the Heat players that you didn't think that was going to do it, it was Robinson, and he was just phenomenal. He tied a franchise record, 75 points in the first half. They just did so much and just blitzed the Cavs. Like I said, it was just mostly Duncan Robinson getting open, knocking down shots, and they were just 3-pointers. He was bombing away. He had 3 guys with 20 plus points. Tyler Hero had 22 points, as well as Jimmy Butler filling up the stat sheet with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, and 2 steals. Cleveland was led by Kevin Love, who did return from back spasms, 25 points and 13 rebounds. And Larry Nance Jr. had 16 points and 9 rebounds, starting in the place of Tristan Thompson. Out in Toronto last night, the Raptors held on in the fourth quarter, 113-97 over the Orlando Magic. Fred VanVleet scored a game-high 24 points. Pascal Siakam 18 points, 11 rebounds. And a rematch of the opening round of the first-round playoff series. Magic's 3-game winning streak was snapped. And really, this was a game where 2 guys, the Magic did lose Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Gordon in the game. Both had ankle injuries, and both of them left the building on crutches. The Magic couldn't have much after those guys got hurt. Gordon was injured in the first part of the first quarter. Hopefully, nothing came back as far as the break or anything. We'll know more about it later on today. Both of them were very painful. Both of them received MRIs. Vucevic was not able to come back in the game. He left the game, and the X-rays did come back negative. Could not put pressure on his leg. The Magic had to use different guys to replace both of them, and it just wasn't pretty. The Magic, of course, once again, when you have Aaron Gordon and Vucevic out, had to find scoring. Evan Fournier led with 21 points last night. Jonathan Isaac, 16 points, 13 rebounds. The Magic, we'll know more the Magic situation on after the MRIs later on today on Thursday. Magic don't play again until Saturday, so we'll see the status of Vucevic and Aaron Gordon going forward for the game on Saturday. One thing about the Raptors, they're undefeated at home. They're 6-0 at home. While the Magic are the only Magic and also Oklahoma City Thunder, the 2 teams in the NBA that have road victory, they're both Magic 0-5. and the Thunder's 0-6. Out in Chicago, Bulls handled the Pistons 109-89. The game in the beginning was marked by Kobe White hurting himself in pregame, spraining his ankle. Markin had 24 points after the game actually tipped off. His first time in a while that he's knocked down some shots. He looked good, like Lauri Markkanen that we expect him to look like. Markkanen finished the game, I said, 24 points, 7-14 shooting. He knocked down a couple three-pointers in the game. Shaquille Harrison had 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists, starting in the place of the injured Chandler Hutchinson. This was a game where the Bulls basically dominated. The Pistons are still trying to find their way. Derrick Rose actually relegated to the bench last night. Had team high 18 points. Blake Griffin still getting used to the surroundings around the offense. 16 points, 8 rebounds, but he did shoot 4-15. Pistons started an interesting lineup, but it was just too much of the Bulls. Getting around, the Bulls looked very, very good defensively. Like I said, Marcus' 24 points was the first 20-point game he had since opening night. That's been a wow for the Bulls. Bulls are now 5-10 of the season. Pistons are now Pistons now go to 4-10. And finally, out in Minnesota last night, the Utah Jazz took care of the Minnesota Timberwolves 103-95 every match of the game on Monday night that the Timberwolves have won inside Utah. Here's the difference. On Monday night, the Timberwolves couldn't miss from the three-point line. On Wednesday night, the Timberwolves couldn't hit from the three-point line. After having a huge night, knocking down threes on Monday night, the Timberwolves missed 31 of their 45 attempts last night, and Donovan Mitchell broke out, had bounced back out having a rough game on Tuesday night to knock out the home and home Monday night to split the home and home series. Bojan Bogdanovic had 30 points to lead the Jazz in the game last night. He went 9-18 from the floor. He also had 6 3-pointers in the game. Like I said, Mitchell had 26 points and 7 rebounds. Minnesota was led by Andrew Wiggins, who returned from being sick, and was fighting through an illness anyway. He missed Monday's game due to being sick, reportedly catching it from his daughter, who was also sick as well, too. He had 22 points and 7 rebounds. Karl-Anthony Towns, one game after fresh off hitting 31 points and 7 rebounds, had 14 points and 12 rebounds for Minnesota last night. So let's go to the stud of the night. It was a lot of stud of the night opportunities, but tonight is going to be a split stud of the night. Yes, it's going to be 2 of them tonight. I mean, Luka Doncic is 30. When you scored 33 points in the first half of the game, you almost had a triple-double before halftime. Your team wins by, 48 points. Normally, you'd be the stud of the night. It's not even close, especially when you hit a second straight triple-double. Your 7th triple-double of the season. You got to give Luka Doncic his credit for that one, and also the stud of the night. But the other stud of the night was a guy that did not score 37 points. It was Patrick Beverley's 14 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. When I say that Patrick Beverley looked like an all-NBA player last night, especially the defensive end, and like he always is, this was the night to do it. So they're going to split the stud of the night award because both of them put up phenomenal performances. Now, Thursday night in the NBA is only a 2-game night. It is a TNT national TV night. With only 2 games on the schedule, makes things so much easier to talk about. Blazers and Bucs, both. Bucs are coming off a back-to-back last night. Like I said, they won last night in Atlanta. Portland played. This will be a 3rd game in 4 nights. Carmelo Anthony will be available for the Blazers. Not sure if Damian Lillard will be available. The Blazers are reeling right now, still trying to find their own way. Bucs are 11-3. They're streaking, and also the top team. They also topped the Celtics being the best team in the Eastern Conference last night with their victory. Late game, Suns and Pelicans. We'll see how healthy Ricky Rubio is. This game should be up and down and fair. Of course, the Pelicans did get back Brandon Ingram the other night, his first game back after a couple on Monday night in their victory over their victory on Tuesday night against Portland. They got Ingram back. He had 21 points in his return. This should be up and down and fair. The Suns have actually been one of the more surprised teams in the NBA. Like I said, it's very rare when a team can lose a guy like DeAndre Ayton for 25 games. Kind of the same thing with Atlanta. The difference is the Kings have found ways to win, especially November. The Suns have been up and down. Like I said, they're 7-6 right now. They're still an exciting team. Devin Booker, he has increased usage, increased assist totals, especially when Rubio is out. So we recapped the entire 11-game schedule in the NBA, went over everything in just about 20 minutes. So I'm pretty impressed with giving you all the information possible to catch you back up so you have something to talk about. So follow me on Twitter at Danny, DANNY, 3 Thompson on Twitter. Follow Around the Association on Facebook. Listen to my radio show on Saturday, which is on 98.5 The Wire in Orlando, as well as you can listen to it nationally on places such as You can listen, get it out on the 98.5 The Wire app, as well as listen to it on any type of streaming services that plays radio stations across the country. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, as well as iHeartRadio, Podomatic, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, any other place you play podcasts. And tomorrow, like I said, we'll go over the 2 games as well as preview a busy weekend in the NBA. So for myself, Danny Thompson, we'll check with you guys tomorrow for Around the Association. Peace. Enjoy Thursday.